Our friend Gretchen Haley writes, "Life comes for us in 1,000 different ways. It undoes our plans and upends our traditions and knocks down the doors of our defenses. So we practice surrendering. Surrendering to the waves of grace and grief which wash over us all. Let us remember again the possibility of a larger calling, a deeper calling, that we might offer our gifts with a surprising generosity, that we might release ourselves from the needing to know what comes next, because we do not know, we cannot know. We are here now, to rest in the beauty of this spring morning. We are here now, to be present to ourselves and to each other, and to hold this hope that we make together.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to Sunday services at First Parish Church of Groton. I am Emma Morella, and my pronouns are she, her. We are a community seeking to deepen spiritually, to take care of one another, and to be a blessing to the world. Unitarian Universalism is a faith for all, so bring all of who you are, all of your beliefs, identities, abilities, challenges, and gifts. Bring all of what you've been and all of what you've done. There is room here for all of it. Our congregation includes a wide diversity of beliefs. I invite you to freely translate the language you hear today. If you are visiting for the first time today, whether here in person or online, we are so glad that you found us. If you would like more information, please email us at welcome@uugroton.org. We especially welcome children and youth. We are not concerned about noise, and we hope that you won't be either. We do have religious education with Cynthia and friends today. We will sing everyone there a little later in the service. Grown-ups are always welcome to accompany their kids downstairs. We have virtual church at 7 p.m. on Zoom every Sunday evening. All are welcome. If you need the link, email us at welcome@uugroton.org. Services are also posted on the First Parish YouTube channel by Sunday evening. Special thanks to Melissa Wood, who is on tech this morning. Barbara Rich and Jackie Fry are ushering today. They have large print lyric sheets and assisted listening devices. If you need anything during the service, they will be happy to help. Please join us for our Black Lives Matter Vigil today and every Sunday at 11:30 on Main Street in front of the church. The annual meeting of the congregation is happening on Wednesday night, May 26th at 6 p.m. on Zoom. This is how we govern ourselves and make important decisions about our budget, etc. Your participation is needed. Details are in the weekly email. The memorial service celebrating Bob Burkhart's life is Thursday, May 26th at 4:30 p.m. and all are welcome. We are having a service with poetry written by the congregation on June 5th. We really need your poems, folks. What's a poem? Anything that feels like a poem to you. We can read other people's poems in books all day long. We're looking for our poems, the ones we might be able only to hear right here. Send them, please. Aaliyah or Lee will be happy to talk with you about it at any time. And Sadie and Sophie have an announcement about the food drive.
The workshop class is working on a fundraiser in honor of Bob Burkhart. Burkhart? Yes. We knew Bob, and he talked with some of us about being homeless. We are collecting specific items or money to benefit the Stone Soup Kitchen Food Pantry and Air. It serves warm meals and provides food to the homeless and families that need help.
Thanks to everyone who already donated. We are collecting through May. The items needed are listed in the NNO along with the information on making donations. The list is also posted downstairs in the vestry. You can drop food donations on the table near the side entrance. Please support the social justice project. And thank you.
We have learned through the pandemic that our sanctuary is not this room or any place at all. Sanctuary is what we create together. Please come in and rest for a while. You are so welcome here.
wonderful to hear the choir. Thank you. My name is Lee Kinvey. I'm the intern minister here at First Parish. I use they, them pronouns. I'm going to call us into this time of worship more fully now, invite us each into this time of sanctuary together. We'll ring this meditation bell 3 times. We take 3 deep, slow breaths. The first for ourselves, send it inward. The second, sending to those you love, wherever they are. And the third for this whole beautiful, broken world. If you are joining us at home and you have a chalice or some kind of candle, now would be a good time to get that as we light our common chalice here in the sanctuary. The chalice is the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. It was created during the Second World War for the UU Service Committee. The members of that committee were helping to get Jews and other persecuted groups out of Europe. It's a symbol of resistance and resilience. Sarah Iacobucci, she told me to say that with an Italian hand, Iacobucci, will light our chalice today.
Well done.
Pull that mic down, Sarah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So here we are on this beautiful spring day, and I'm going to start my chalice lighting talking about snow, but it might cool us off a bit. One of the snowstorms this winter left behind about 4 inches of snow. This was not enough to call my guy to plow the snow driveway, to plow this driveway, but enough to need to get the snowblower going. When I went to get the snowblower started, I saw that there were several inches of snow frozen inside the shaft from the previous storm. I knew I had to remove that ice before I could get going. So there I was for quite a while, kneeling on the cold ground, chipping away the ice, when suddenly a white truck, which I didn't recognize, showed up in my driveway, and this svelte man in these tight-fitting winter overalls jumped out and said, "Can I help you?" It was Dean, my snowplow guy, in his new truck. He was just checking in to see how I was managing in the snow. He saw the ice that I was trying to remove and said, "I'll give that a try." In a matter of a few minutes, he had the ice gone and the snowblower started. He said, "You're all set, have a nice day." And then he was gone, just like that. I couldn't believe it. I was sort of stunned as I was clearing the driveway. I was thinking about what had just happened, and I thought, I feel like I was just visited by a superhero. This superhero arrived unannounced in this unusual attire, resolved my problem, said, "Have a nice day," and was gone, just like that. Sure sounded like a superhero to me. Then I started thinking about all the other superheroes and heroes in the world around us. Over the past years, I have passed a handmade lawn sign that says, "Thank you to grocery store workers and healthcare workers. You are heroes." I agree, they are heroes. They went to work day after day with so much uncertainty. They took good care of us all. They are heroes. They are superheroes. Then when I think about suddenly having First Parish Church on my computer at my home on Sunday mornings, it was amazing. All the tech people involved, Aaliyah, candle lighting, singing, people lighting chalices, even the changing the air filtration system in the church, and there was so much more. People here making sure that we were safe and helping us to not feel so alone and unsettled during this difficult time. These are nothing less than superheroes to me. And what about the people who held signs out front of the church every Sunday afternoon? In a few weeks, it will be the 2-year anniversary from when they started. In the snow, in the rain, and in the heat, they have held signs and communicated to the community that we recognize the importance of showing up and saying, Black Lives Matter. I went to the Vigil some of the Sundays, but I didn't last 2 years. They sure do sound like superheroes to me. In the underdog cartoons that I watched as a kid, I remember when Underdog's love interest, Sweet Polly Purebred, needed help. She would gently call out, Underdog! And he would hear her voice with his supersonic hearing and come to her rescue. This idea of supersonic hearing or some supernatural power in the world around us reminds me of something I heard Paula Cole Jones say recently. Paula Cole Jones is one of the co-authors of the UUA 8th Principle. Paula has been having conversations and giving sermons about the 8th Principle for several years now. She helps churches better understand the 8th Principle and guides them as they decide if their church will adopt the 8th Principle. Here is the draft language of the 8th Principle. We, the member congregations of the UUA, covenant to affirm and promote, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. In one of Paula's sermons, she said, there is something magical that happens every Sunday when people assemble to honor the sacred, the divine, that which is bigger than ourselves, the spirit of life. There is something here that we cannot create on our own. There is great power in the collective consciousness, in collective positive energy. She even references a scientific book written by a neurologist titled Becoming Supernatural. In this book, they discuss scientific experiments where several experienced meditators gathered together in a room and synchronized their intentions and unified their consciousness. During this time, the scientists were able to detect measurable changes in the energy in the air of the room. Paula says, what if there is energy all around us, full of possibilities, our collective possibilities, a collective positive energy? I love this idea of a collective positive energy, this superpower that surrounds us, which we could harness and use for good. I light the chalice today for all the superheroes in our lives and the collective positive energy in the world around us. Thank you.
Each week we are lighting a candle for the people of Ukraine and for all other people around the world who live in the midst of violence and war. Today this candle is also for those killed and hurt in Buffalo, New York yesterday, for their families and friends, and for the healing of racism in ourselves, in our children, and in our country. So I will say the words, and I'll ask Sophie, would you light the candle? And then the choir will sing the response, "This is my song." And I invite you again to sing quietly or hum along or just listen, and let's use this time to pray for peace. Chris Hedges writes, "War in the end is always about betrayal. Betrayal of the young by the old. Betrayal of soldiers by politicians. Betrayal of idealists by cynics." So we light this candle for peace. Will you just light it for me? Today too. Abby, if you even just sneak right out a little bit, you'll be able to hear better. Okay, and see, of course. All right. So Lee and I are going to tell this story, and Owen, who's very good at book holding, is going to hold up the pictures.
Professional talent.
Superbat. So today's story is about superheroes. Have any of you ever wanted to be one? Yes. Cynthia says yes. Lisa says yes. Well, this is a story about a little bat who wants to be a superhero, and it is called Superbat by Matt Carr. Yes. It was the middle of the day, and Pat the bat, we're ready, could not sleep. Pat was bored of hanging around in a dark cave, and they wanted to be special, like the superheroes in their favorite comics. And then it hit Pat. Pow! Pat had a great idea and set to work. Now, it was not easy, using their mother's sewing machine, and their wings kept getting in the way. Rat-a-tat-tat went the sewing machine.
Keep the noise down, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
But after a couple of hours, the outfit was ready, and Pat became Superbat! When the other bats woke up, they were all very surprised.
"I'm Superbat," said Pat.
"Wow," said Gary. "What are your superpowers?"
"I have super hearing," boasted Pat.
"Well, so do we," said all of Pat's friends. "Good point," Pat muttered. All the other bats gathered around to see Superbat. "Can you lift up a car with your mighty muscles?" asked Gertie. Or shoot laser beams from your eyes? Asked Glenda.
Well, no, said Pat, their voice wobbling a bit. But I can fly! And Pat leapt into the air.
What do you think all the other bats are gonna say? So can we. What else can you do? Pat tried to think of another super skill. They felt like every bat in town was staring at them, and they were very, very nervous.
I have echolocation, which means that I can find my way in the dark.
What are the bats gonna say? So do we. That's nothing special. We can all do that. Pat trudged home. Their wings drooped, their ears drooped. They did not feel special at all.
I'm just a normal bat in a silly outfit, Pat sighed, trying not to cry.
Just as Pat was about to rip off that silly suit and cape and throw it away, their supersonic hearing picked up a very faint cry. All the way on the other side of town, a big cat had trapped an entire family of mice. Pat's wings spread out, their ears perked up, and Pat bravely flew across the city as fast as their little wings could fly.
Is it a bird? Is it a plane? I think it's a bat in a funny little costume.
Pat swooped in like a blur of fur, and the big bad cat took a
Sweat!
Ooh, wait. But it missed super bad. Pat dived back down and flapped its wings really, really fast.
Wham!
And scared that cat right away. And the mice were free.
You saved us, cried the mice. Thank you. But who are you, oh masked hero?
Pat smiled modestly. Me? I'm no one special.
Oh, yes, you are, cried Pat's friends who had followed Pat across town and seen their heroics. And you do have a superpower, courage. You are a super bat!
And Pat flew back to the cave for a good day's sleep, with all their friends flying behind all the way. And they really did feel rather special. The end. Thank you, Rowan. That was quite a performance. And now we will sing the children and youth and volunteers to religious education with gratitude and with the words on your lyric sheets.
Our psalm prayer this morning is a meditation on breathing. It was written by Sarah Dan Jones just after the 9/11 attacks. The words are just, when I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
When
Beloveds, those who have gathered in this room over centuries have lived through some dangerous times, some broken times, as we are now. And they came here with their broken hearts, as we do now. As we do now, live and in person, virtually, and across time and space. Today, we gather the morning after a horrific, racist, hate-filled domestic terrorist attack on Black humans who happened to be grocery shopping on a Saturday afternoon in Buffalo, New York. What is it that's ours to do at times like this? I am guided by the three tenets of the Zen Peacemakers. First is the not knowing, resisting the urge to clamp down and intellectually explain all the things, the history of racism in this country and the aftermath of the 2016 election and all the things my mind wants to go to. I return to the not knowing. I do not know what led that 18-year-old to that moment. I will never know that. And when I ask the part of my mind that wants to control by fixating on the trying to know, when I ask that part to scoot over a little, just scoot over a little, I realize that what I can know is how I am feeling, how my heart is responding, breaking open, and how I need to make room for that response and to hold myself in it. The second tenet is bearing witness. So I'm going to ask us at this point in our time of prayer to accept an invitation to feel each other's presence, to feel each other's hearts here together in this moment, in person and across screens, across time, across distance. No one here is alone. So let's enter into a moment of quiet to bear witness together to this brokenness, to this tragedy, to this grief. In 1952, Ralph Ellison told us in Invisible Man, life is to be lived, not controlled, and humanity is won by continuing to play in the face of certain defeat. 63 years later, Ta-Nehisi Coates said the same thing in his own way. I would not have you descend into your own dream. I would have you be a conscious citizen of this terrible and beautiful world. So as conscious citizens of this terrible and beautiful world, we do the next loving thing that is within our reach, within our sphere of influence. Those of us who are white, this anti-racism work continues to be ours to do, within ourselves first, with each other, and systemically. We do what we need to do to calm our bodies and our nervous systems, to breathe in to breathe out, to hum and sing and sway and rock, opening ourselves to the pain and the love and the support that we feel around us from the human and from the more than human worlds, and from the spiritual connections and practices that sustain us. Ellen Bass wrote, "The thing is to love life. To love life even when you have no stomach for it." We pray here together the collected prayers of our community, both spoken and silent, and we send our prayers of healing to everyone in Buffalo, to Irv's brother Tom, to Chuck G, to Don T's mother, to Betty K, to Suzanne N, who is in the hospital, to Sue B's granddaughter Ella, who has COVID, and her whole family, who has been struggling with illness all winter. We send our warm, literally warm thoughts and prayers to Susan R.'s new baby grandson, Julian, who was born this week. His mom is back home, but he's in the NICU for a bit because he is struggling to stay warm and to regulate his temperature. We send our prayers to Patsy H. for her upcoming knee surgery. And we celebrate with Owen and Stuart at the marriage of their son, Matt Schumann, to Amy Cantor yesterday. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we continue to send our specific love and support to all who are living with mental illness. And we offer our love and gratitude and protection to this beautiful earth, to this astounding planet which gave us life and which sustains and holds us. And we take time now to hear the whispered heartaches, the gratitudes and joys and concerns and yearnings of our hearts, as we breathe together into the silence and the stillness and the mystery.
Her generosity sustains this congregation and allows us to do our work. We are small, but what we do matters. I believe it ripples outward. We are in the last week of our annual spring fundraiser, and our goal, which is also our very real need, is to raise $35,000, and we are at 61% of that goal. If you have not yet had the chance, now would be a great time to help us make it. You can write a check with Spring Ask in the memo, or you can open the camera on your phone and point it at the QR code on the back of your lyric sheet, and it will take you right to our website. Donations in any and all amounts are welcome, and we are grateful for each one. The morning offering will now be given and gratefully received.
the choir is going to sing an anthem called I Believe. It's written by Mark Miller. We've done some other Mark Miller pieces. So he wrote the music. But the text is from an inscription that was found in a cellar in Cologne, Germany, after World War II, where a number of Jews had hidden themselves during the entire duration of the war. And the poem is this: I believe in the sun even when it is not shining. I believe in love even when feeling it not. I believe in God even when he is silent.
So I taught a Bible study at Prescott School Community Center earlier this spring for the third of the fourth time. I call it Bible Study for Skeptics and Seekers. And one of the best conversations we had this semester was about the nature of Jesus. And I was talking about the Unitarian Universalist perspective on Jesus as an extraordinary human being who made the best kind of good trouble, as John Lewis would have put it. Someone who was trying to do no less than reorder the power structures of not only the Jewish faith, but the whole society. And I was contrasting this perspective with a more traditional Christian perspective on Jesus as the Son of God, God embodied, fully human, but also with the power to heal, to walk on water, to turn water into wine, and of course, to be resurrected after death, which may be the ultimate superpower. So one of the class members says with great excitement, because clearly a bell has just gone off in his head, he says, "I get it. You are talking about whether Jesus is Batman or Superman." I tell him, this is not a theological position I have ever considered before. So we spent a little time unpacking it. Now, I'm not well enough versed in the powers of various superheroes to fully assess the accuracy of his theological statement, but I can grasp the broad outline of this. For most Unitarian Universalists, not all, but for most, Jesus is Batman. For more traditional Christians, Jesus is Superman. Batman or Superman. It's a difference that really matters. Because if Jesus is Batman, that means that his powers weren't superhuman, just human. And that implies that we have them too. Now, the minister and writer John Pavlovitz is a really important Christian liberal voice in our times. His blog is called Stuff That Needs to Be Said, and it's really good. And I love him because he is a practitioner of hope. And his most recent book is called Hope and Other Superpowers. And in it, he talks about how a lot of us yearned to be superheroes when we were kids, but then life talked us out of it. This passage is from the chapter called News from Metropolis. He writes, "I can remember when I figured out I wasn't a superhero. I was around 6, running through the woods behind our house when I came upon an imposing section of rusted barbed wire in my path. Weaned on a healthy diet of comic books and Saturday morning cartoons, I was fully confident that my latent superhero abilities were ready to spring forth and my impending mythical career fighting injustice was about to begin. So with only a few feet to go before I collided with the twisted strands of rusted metal, I launched myself from the ground, anticipating that I would soon be transcending not only the fence, but the surrounding treetops, well on my way to glory. I came about the fence and some treetops short. 4 decades later, the large scar on my right leg is a permanent, tangible reminder of that day when I proved to be just a little less than super. I imagine you too carry both the visible and the hidden scars of the times you tried to fly and instead came crashing down hard to earth. Pavlovitz talks about how easy it is to lose faith in our powers, to lose faith in our capacity to make a difference, to forget the passions of our youth, to lose our idealism in the face of the daily demands and the constant barrage of bad news, to become overwhelmed and disheartened by the vastness of the scale of the need. But he believes that inside so many of us is what he calls a gravitational pull toward goodness. That in truth, we long to be of use, to live lives of deep meaning and purpose. And he also believes that as hard as this is to believe, especially as COVID-weary and worn as we may be, that we are exactly the ones we've been waiting for. We are the heroes in waiting, not superpowered, just human and flawed and so utterly imperfect We don't even have Batmobiles and all those cool gadgets and the wings that Batman used to jump off the tops of buildings and glide down to safety. But we have what the world needs. As Pavlovitz puts it, the world that you and I are standing on is in desperate need of people still willing to reach and do and believe, and most of all, to be fierce caretakers of hope. The world needs us to reconnect to the essential sacred why of our lives and to live from that place, to unapologetically wield hearts still willing to bleed and then to put them on our sleeves and step out into the daylight looking for the gaps that only we can fill. He believes the vital question for us is, what kind of person does the world need right now? Yes, and an equally vital question I would add is, what is the gift that I have to give? How can I offer it to the people and places who need it? In other words, what is my superpower? We so rarely think this way as adults. But think about it for a moment. What's your superpower? What are you great at, no matter how quirky or small or not that helpful you think it might be? Can you knit socks? Can you play the kazoo extremely well? Are you good at growing tomatoes or getting babies to sleep? Can you paint walls without even needing that painter's tape? Can you keep finicky plants alive or pat dogs in just the right way so their legs start thumping? Are you brave when there is trouble or danger? Are you willing to say the hard, true things even when it feels risky? Are you able to see the good in people when the good is not right on the surface? What is your superpower when you are not being shy or modest or too embarrassed to say it out loud? Just hold it in your mind for a moment and think about this question: how can you share that superpower with the world? Have you ever even considered that this is the time to start a marching kazoo band? That the world has never needed a marching kazoo band more than it does right now. John Pavlovitz says that the world has always been transformed by fully ordinary people who are willing to show up, to brave damage, and to risk failure. Toby, how can we help you? Are you looking for your mom? No, you just want to be here? You're just watching? Do you want to sit down next to Owen? She is so super nice. You just want to stand there? That is so okay. One of the things that we have been talking about a lot in the New England region of the Unitarian Universalist Association are the practices of spiritual leadership. Several of us have been part of this conversation for a few years, and one of the practices of spiritual leadership is called centering in gifts. And it's basically this belief, this conviction that each one of us has a gift to give. And that religious community is a really good place to figure it out. It's a really good place to help people discover their gift and to learn how to both give and receive the gifts of others. Reverend Molly Brewer puts it this way: our communities of faith are the places where our gifts can be named and received. They are the place we can return to when we forget that we are needed. Our spiritual homes are where we are given the privilege of naming the gifts we see in each other and reminding ourselves to remember our collective power. So much remains out of our control. But even now, we each have gifts that are needed. The better, more just, more loving world we know is possible gets closer when we are willing to claim those gifts, to use them humbly and in the service of a greater love. And just as we as individuals each have our own superpowers, our faith tradition has them as well. And one of our most important, one of our most powerful superpowers as Unitarian Universalists, I believe, is our understanding that our understanding is not complete. As we learn more and better about what it means to be good human beings, our faith can change. Not just for us as individuals, though that's extremely important, but our faith as a whole can change, and so can the purposes and principles and sources on which it is built. We are in the process of adding an 8th principle to the 7 principles that most of us are familiar with. But even those 7 principles, we just assume they've always been there. They existed in various forms for a long time, yes, but they were only formally adopted in 1986. And in 1995, we added the spiritual teachings of earth-based traditions to the sources of our faith. Next month, at the annual meeting of our denomination called General Assembly, and again next year for the final time, the gathered people will vote to add a principle which calls us to be intentional and explicit and accountable in working to heal the racism in ourselves, our institutions, and our communities. And I love the fact that our kids are downstairs already doing 8 principles. They added it already. Our children lead the way so often for us. One of the most common criticisms of the 8th principle is that people are asking, well, isn't it implied in all the others? Doesn't our first principle, affirming and promoting the inherent worth and dignity of every person, already include it? Well, yes and no. Being intentional matters. Being explicit matters. Being accountable matters. In the same way that we hang a rainbow banner to make an explicit and visible welcome, in the same way that we say Black Lives Matter instead of All Lives Matter, because Black lives need to matter as much as white lives, and we have work to do until they do. The 8th principle is about our willingness to change, to grow, to use our superpower to say a humble yes. We want to do better, and we believe we can. We'll be talking a lot more about the 8th principle next year, and I hope that we as a congregation will adopt it into our own bylaws, as over 150 congregations have done so far. I hope we will write it into the documents that define and govern our congregation, that we will write it into our hearts. Let us remember that we have the power to do good. Let us remember that we can choose again to be conscious citizens of this terrible and beautiful world. Let us remember the possibility of that larger calling, that we might offer our gifts with a surprising generosity, and to hold this hope that we make together. So our closing hymn is Answering the Call of Love. The words are on your green sheet. Standing as you are able, you are also invited to light silent candles for your joys and your sorrows. During the postlude music, if you have a prayer you would like us to pray, write it on a little orange card and put it in the basket under the table. And for now, whether you put a hand on your heart or the other, let's reach out to one another and look at each other's beautiful faces. And know that we are connected, we are woven together by such strong and sturdy threads of love.
Go in peace. Be a blessing to this room.